Tesla, Elon Musk, general insanity, and the world's most valuable car company. You're probably aware that in October 2008 Elon Musk took control of Tesla, steering the company through near bankruptcy, the launch of the Model S, and the initial public offering in 2010. By the autumn of 2021, Tesla surged to a market value of $1.2 trillion, a gargantuan sum that made it more valuable than the next 9 largest car companies combined. However, despite this huge growth in value, from $1.6 billion at the public offering to $1.2 trillion in 2021, an increase in value of 750 times, Tesla only managed to rank as the 5th most valuable company in the world, behind Apple, Microsoft, Saudi Aramco, and Google. But did you know, a decade before the personality cult of Elon drove Tesla to a $1 trillion market capitalization, Volkswagen was propelled to being the most valuable company in the whole world. Volkswagen had spent the years leading up to the 2008 financial crisis acquiring and merging with competitors in order to share costs, technology, and access new markets. Volkswagen acquired Audi in the 1960s, followed by Seat in 1990, Skoda in 1995. And in 1998, they really went on a shopping spree, acquiring Lamborghini, Bentley, and Bugatti. In addition, they also consolidated commercial and heavy trucks with the addition of Scania and MAN. Then, in 2008, the great financial crisis unfolded and most of the world teetered on the verge of bankruptcy. The American housing market collapsed, taking down most of the banking and insurance sectors, and the credit markets completely froze, resulting in the largest global bailout of private markets by governments in history. However, not everyone was feeling the pain in 2008. Short sellers who sell shares in companies before they own them, wagering that the share price will fall and that they will be able to buy them back at a lower price in the future, or making vast sums of money from the collapsing share prices of companies around the world. In the late summer of 2008, these short sellers set their sights on a new target, Volkswagen. The financial world considered that Volkswagen was vulnerable because it had overleveraged itself in the years prior to the financial crisis, and that it would struggle to refinance all of its debt. They also speculated that, in the face of a massive recession, demand for new cars would fall, thereby significantly reducing sales and revenue for the auto manufacturer. Hedge funds and other financial speculators around the world wagered that this double whammy of reduced revenue with high debts, coupled with a high-cost base, could bankrupt the carmaker, or at the very least significantly reduce its share price. Some of the most respected investors piled into the trade, including David Einhorn at Greenlight Capital, Paul Singer at Elliott Management, Steve Cohen at SAT Capital, Marshall Wace, and Lansdowne Partners. These 5 behemoths, in addition to a multitude of smaller funds, collectively sold short approximately 13% of the total shares in Volkswagen. They then sat back and waited for the crash. And they continued to wait and wait and wait. But nothing happened. These hedge funds were increasingly perplexed. They were convinced their thesis was correct. But no matter how bad the news got in the summer of 2008, the share price of Volkswagen just didn't move. Or at least it didn't move until it really started to move. The problem was, the move wasn't in the direction the hedge funds have predicted. It turns out these hedge funds have failed to account for one variable, Porsche. On the 28th of October 2008, Porsche stunned the financial community by announcing it had secretly purchased a controlling interest of 74.1% in Volkswagen. Porsche had long been a shareholder of about 30% in Volkswagen, and now, sensing an opportunity from falling share prices, they purchased as many shares in the open market as they could, often buying the short positions of the hedge funds. Plus, Porsche was buying options and derivative contracts to further boost their control. They ended up buying 42.6% of the shares directly, with another 31.5% through options and derivatives. The directors of Porsche announced their long-term goal was to buy Volkswagen in its entirety. In addition to the 74.1% owned by Porsche, the German state of Lower Saxony owned 20.2% of Volkswagen, a long-term holding and not atypical of the relationship between large manufacturers and local governments in Europe. And the government of Lower Saxony was forbidden from selling these shares. This meant that 94.3% of all shares in Volkswagen were effectively locked up, and that only 5.7% remained as free float. And to remember, the hedge funds had collectively sold short 13% of Volkswagen. To say the brown sticky stuff had hit the fan would be something of an understatement. The events that unfolded made the GameStop saga look like a tea party in comparison. The hedge funds went into full panic mode and desperately tried to buy shares on the open market to close out their short positions. The problem was that there were a dozen funds trying to buy 13% of the shares when only 5.7% remained as free float. And just because these shares existed didn't mean they were actually for sale. The share price of Volkswagen started an inexorable rise, partly driven by these hedge funds trying to buy, but also by other hedge funds who were trying to capitalize on the misfortune of their peers by buying as many shares as they could to effectively hold the short sellers to ransom. The Volkswagen share price, which had been bobbing around €210 for the past several weeks, suddenly jumped to over €1,000 in just 2 days. The market value of Volkswagen surged to €300 billion, the equivalent of $370 billion, making it the most valuable company in the world, surpassing the oil majors, the tech giants, and the global banks, which had been hammered in the financial crisis. Unfortunately for the spectators, this situation lasted for only a few days. The Porsche directors, aware of the chaos for which they were partly responsible and worried about the consequences, agreed to divest a sufficient number of shares to allow the short positions to be closed. The hedge funds were ultimately able to close out all of their short positions at prices ranging from €1,000 to €600, and the share price of Volkswagen slowly ebbed its way back down to €250. In a sequence of events that Elon would probably have gleefully enjoyed, after the short sellers later attacked Tesla, the hedge funds that tried to profit from short selling the stock of Volkswagen ultimately lost an estimated $30 billion. A staggering sum on its own, but even worse when you consider the opportunity cost when these hedge funds could have simply short sold the banks which actually were collapsing and made a fortune. When the episode was over, the affected hedge funds attempted to sue Porsche in Germany and in the United States, but to no avail. The courts of both countries ultimately ruled that Porsche hadn't broken any laws and that no redress was due to the affected hedge funds. However, and rather ironically, in the years following this escapade, the fortunes of Porsche soared, and the company was ultimately purchased by Volkswagen in 2012. C'est la vie. Anyway, there you have it. The personality cult of Elon was only able to propel Tesla to the 5th most valuable company in the world, whereas a group of inept short sellers, aided by the boffins at Porsche, managed to make Volkswagen the single most valuable public company in the world, if only for a few days. Maybe next time we should take a look at GameStop and see what lessons Melvin and Citroën could have learnt to protect them. Anyway, that's all for now. Thank you for watching, and I hope you join me again next time.